Welcome back to our channel, where we present updates and concealed tales about royal family. We are happy to offer the following news. Harry and Meghan in panic after Archewell scandal and family fallout exposed. The Phantom Charity, how a vanished website discovered the hollow core of Harry and Meghan's empire, is described in the popular book The Phantom Charity. It disappeared in the wee hours of the night. At one point in time, it was an essential component of the charitable endeavors that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were pursuing. But at another point, it was a ghost in the machine. Unexpectedly, the website for the Parents Network, an initiative that was highly praised by the Archewell Foundation, which is owned by the couple, completely disappeared. Visitors were only able to find a cold and impersonal redirect or the digital nothingness of a 404-page not found error in its place. The problem was not merely a technical malfunction. This was an erasure, an intentional act of digital demolition that took away a project that had been launched on the backs of bereaved families and honored with a media blitz just a few months before. A disturbing pattern of emotional exploitation, fleeting commitment, and a profound, possibly fatal, misunderstanding of the difference between celebrity and service has been revealed as a result of the sudden disappearance of this one webpage, which has become the thread that, when pulled, unravels the entire tapestry of the after-royal ambitions of the Sussexes. An absence from the digital realm. When it comes to the realm of charity in the 21st century, the internet presence of an organization is its most important asset. In addition to being the public square, the library, and the ledger, it is also a tribute to the organization's efforts, its vision, and the promises it has made. For a foundation like As Archewell, which was born in the crucible of worldwide media attention and is reliant on digital-first interaction, the website is not only a tool, rather it is the very essence of the foundation's credibility. Therefore, the sudden and unceremonious deletion of the entire section that was dedicated to the Parents Network goes beyond the scope of simple administrative housekeeping. As a result of the significant significance of this symbolic gesture, digital strategists and crisis managers would approach it with apprehension. It is a clear indication of a complete and total withdrawal from a key commitment. If one wishes to comprehend what was lost, it is necessary to consult the digital archives of the Wayback Machine, which serves as the memory bank of the Internet. The project in its current state, as it was shown to the world, is located there, frozen in time. On the page, there was a polished and compassionate portal that promised to provide assistance to parents who were navigating the perilous world of the digital era. Downloadable guides for gaining a grasp of social media platforms such as Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok were among the carefully selected materials that were included. Moreover, it highlighted the heartbreaking stories of bereaved families, which consisted of parents who had lost their children as a result of circumstances that were linked to the pressures and evils that were associated with the Internet. In addition to providing the initiative with an unquestionable moral authority, these testimonials served as the project's emotional heart. Harry and Meghan were not simply remarking on an issue. Rather, they were constructing a community, a digital refuge for individuals who were experiencing agony. This was the message that was made very apparent. The subsequent removal of this content is shocking in its entirety since it was removed. It was not just the homepage that disappeared. Rather, it was the complete ecosystem of support that they had promised to construct. Memory holes were there in everything, including the guides, the stories, and even the word itself. From this point on, the domain is simply transferred to an external group known as Parents Together, with a brief note that is almost dismissive being posted on an archive page to confirm the turnover. In the beginning, it was framed as a merger or a recognized evolution of a partnership, but neither of those things was true. This was an offloading, a total and subtle abandonment of responsibility on the part of the individual. Those who specialize in brand management and consultants for charitable organizations are in agreement that such a move is nearly unheard of for a prominent foundation. They claim that it is consistency and transparency that are the foundations of trust. An explanation that is both clear and respectful is provided whenever a project is closed down. At times, a legacy page is kept up to date in order to pay tribute to the individuals who were part in the effort. To merely delete it is indicative of a wish to not only move on with one's life, but also to pretend that it never was. In other words, it is a digital mic drop, an act of utmost indifference that causes participants, sponsors, and the general public to question the authenticity of the entire operation. The page that displayed the 404 error became more than just a broken link. It became a digital tombstone for a promise, a stark emblem of a foundation that constructs monuments in the sand, only to let the tides sweep them away without leaving any trace. This one act of digital deletion has put a long shadow over any other endeavor that Archewell might launch. Which begs the question, if a project that was created on the sacred anguish of parents can be so carelessly destroyed, then what kind of devotion can truly be trusted? An explanation of how grief can be used as a currency. It is not the broken linkages that form the primary tragedy that led to the downfall of the Parents Network. Rather, it is the broken trust that the organization had with the vulnerable people who were at the center of its operations. The launch of the program was met with a great deal of enthusiasm by those who were involved. The finale of a media event that had been meticulously planned and carried out was an appearance on CBS that received a lot of attention. They were there, sitting close to the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, and they were some of the same parents whose accounts of what it was like to be grieving were meant to be the impetus behind the project. These individuals were in the midst of feeling a loss that was incomprehensible, and they had made the courageous decision to express their personal pain on a stage that was open to the entire nation. They did this with the implicit promise that their suffering would serve as the fuel for a movement, that their pain would be redeemed by the formation of a resource that would last for a long time and eliminate the prospect of others enduring the same fate. They did this with the intention of ensuring that their tragedy would be redeemed. By making a contribution of their moral capital, which was the most powerful and painful currency they possessed, they were, in essence, lending it to the Sussex brand. They were provided with a platform, a community, and the formidable advocacy of two of the most renowned individuals on the planet in exchange for their participation in the event. During the time when these families were recounting the most difficult days of their life, Harry and Meghan positioned themselves as sympathetic listeners and forceful allies. These actions were carried out with expressions of grief on their faces. However, the cause behind it was beyond blame, despite the fact that the appearance was immaculate. Further establishing the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge as advocates for the protection of Internet users, the project was also acknowledged with an award, which further strengthened its validity and established the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge as advocates. Being a witness to a major breach of ethical norms is what it means to have the ability to view the project being dissolved without any formalities and move to another company just a few short months after it was initially conceived. Despite the fact that ethicists who work in the nonprofit sector have been warning about the dangers of cause shopping by celebrities for a considerable amount of time, this particular occurrence appears to be particularly awful. It is important to note that families were not only benefactors or supporters, rather they constituted the fundamental foundation upon which the institution was constructed. The stories that they told served as the basis for its construction, re-traumatizing them by making their public vulnerability a footnote in a failed public relations effort is what it means to stop the project, which is the same thing as abandoning them. This is because the public relations effort was unsuccessful. There is a pattern of behavior that reveals a motive that is more focused on personal validation than on genuine, long-term generosity, as indicated by the results of psychological analysts. This pattern of behavior consists of intense, public-facing participation, followed by a quick and discreet departure. Being seen as solving it appears to have been the goal of the initiative, rather than finding a solution to the tough problem of harm caused by the internet, which would have required years of tedious and unpleasant work. It appears that the intention was actually to be seen as solving it. The appearance on CBS, the reward, and the lovely headlines that were written were all examples of these deliverables. Following the implementation of the security measures, the actual arduous labor of maintaining the network, keeping the resources up to date, and providing help to the community became a burdensome task. Due to the fact that they had achieved their objective of generating a wave of favorable PR from the scenario, it looked that the families were no longer required. For the purpose of this discussion, the approach that is being adopted considers human suffering to be raw material that can be transformed into positive press. This is a style of philanthropy that is transactional, which stands in stark contrast to the work that is carried out by philanthropic organizations that are involved in activities that are truly transformative. Additionally, organizations like As Mothers Against Drunk Driving, MADD, were established as a direct response to the loss that was experienced by parents. Despite this, the success of these organizations is dependent on decades of activism that is persistent, unyielding, and usually unglamorous. Instead of building a stage, they decided to establish an institution instead. By treating the Parents Network as if it were a disposable business entity that could be flipped once its initial value was taken, Harry and Meghan have demonstrated a shocking disdain for the implicit contract that they signed with those families who are suffering. This disdain is a result of the fact that they have treated the Parents Network as if it were business. They did not only discontinue a program, rather, they invalidated the bravery of those who stood in solidarity with them, compelling them to contemplate whether or not their pain was ever anything more than a background in the narrative of another individual. What is known as the hollow crown, the crown of Archewell. The collapse of the Parents Network, which took place in a rather unremarkable manner, is not an isolated incident, but rather a reflection of a more basic and systemic problem that exists within the Archewell Foundation itself. It exposes a core mindset that places a higher priority on ephemeral exposure than it does on long-term impact, which ultimately results in what many charity watchdogs now refer to as a hollow husk of an organization being developed. This is the case because it places a higher priority on publicity that is just temporary. When put into reality, Archewell appears to be a shallow basin that is only able to hold attention for a short period of time before it disappears. Despite the fact that the word Archewell was designed to imply profound and significant beginnings, arch, and a source of replenishment, well, it seems to work more like a shallow basin. The operational model that has emerged as a result of this recent development is known as pop-up philanthropy. A cause is found, and it is frequently one that fits in well with the personal experiences of Harry and Meghan, such as mental health issues or online harassment. This is the case in the majority of cases. A striking name, a stunning website, and a flurry of press releases are all components that are incorporated in the process of launching a spectacular business. A number of announcements are made concerning collaborations, high-profile events are scheduled, and rewards are typically secured in a short amount of time. During this preliminary stage, a significant amount of positive media coverage is generated, which serves to reinforce the image that the Sussexes wish to project as global humanitarians. This is an important step in the process. On the other hand, the essential second phase, which includes the tedious and unglamorous process of establishing infrastructure, managing operations, and providing consistent services, appears to be commonly absent. This phase is essential since it takes place during the second phase. Alternately, once the initial wave of publicity has reached its peak, the project is either discreetly faded out, as was the case with the Parents Network, or it is passed over to an organization that already exists. Both of these options are viable alternatives. Archewell is able to avoid the immense financial and administrative burden of actual, ongoing programming work by adopting this strategy, which enables the company to claim credit for catalyzing action. This allows Archewell to avoid the burden of actual programming activity. It is the equivalent of a house flipper for a nonprofit organization. They purchase a distressed asset, a social problem, apply a cosmetic coat of paint, a public relations campaign, and then fast sell it off for a profit, reputational gain to the organization. On the other hand, this is in stark contrast to the most prominent charity foundations that are available all over the world. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, for example, is a global behemoth that employs hundreds of people and has an endowment that is worth several billions of dollars. The foundation is dedicated to the systematic and data-driven elimination of diseases such as malaria and polio. Over the course of several decades, the Ford Foundation has been actively engaged in the process of consolidating institutions and offering assistance to groups that advocate for social justice. The defining qualities of these companies are their consistency, their broad operating capacity, and their unwavering attention on measurable, long-term objectives. These organizational characteristics are what make these firms unique. On the other side, Archewell looks to work in a manner that is analogous to that of a Hollywood production corporation. It appears to shift from one effort with a short-term time frame to the next, with its major product being material and headlines rather than change that is serious and long-lasting. It is the contention of many who are experts in the management of nonprofit organizations that this method is not only ineffective, but also inherently dishonest. According to a more in-depth analysis, the foundation itself appears to be little more than a branding exercise and a pass-through corporation, despite the fact that it gives the impression of a massive and extended amount of activity. Although it is common and generally accepted for foundations to serve as grant-making bodies that provide financial assistance to the operations of other charitable organizations, Archewell portrays its initiatives as its own creations, only to abandon them later on. This is despite the fact that it is popular and perfectly acceptable for foundations to work in this manner. As a result of this overall lack of follow-through, which has become a distinguishing characteristic, a reputation has been formed for being all sizzle and no steak. This reputation has spread around the world. According to those who now believe that the true purpose of the foundation has become clear, Archewell does not exist to help the world. Rather, it exists to serve the brand of Harry and Meghan. This is the belief of those who have a negative opinion of the foundation. The source material demonstrates in a plain manner that it provides a framework for their revenue that is tax efficient. It is a vehicle for developing awareness, maintaining public relevance, and supplying a framework for their income. As far as their charity empire is concerned, it would appear that the crown cannot be filled with anything. An appearance of the ghost of Megxit, a return to the blueprint that made no impact. For the Sussexes, the deliberate withdrawal from hands-on humanitarian activity and the adoption of a paradigm that values publicity is not a new trend. Rather, it is a step in the wrong direction. Considering that their multi-million-dollar media deals with Netflix and Spotify have largely fizzled out into a handful of productions, they are now reverting to the one thing that they know best, the performance of royalty, but without the accountability or constitutional constraints. This is because they are able to perform royalty without being subject to constitutional constraints. This indicates that they are going back to the original, defective plan for their lives when they leave the royal family. This blueprint was the very half-in, half-out concept that the late Queen Elizabeth II rejected with such a resounding rejection. The next suggested iteration of the Archewell strategy, which entails embarking on what are being referred to as foreign tours to countries such as Nigeria, is the clearest proof that this transition has taken place. The fact that they have taken this action reveals that they have a fundamental breakdown in their ability to perceive the reality of their new status. An official royal tour is a more elaborate form of British soft power, and it consists of a tour that travels throughout the United Kingdom. Foreign, Commonwealth, and Development Office is involved in the planning process, which is carried out in minute detail and takes several months, if not years, to complete. The procedure is carried out in a manner that is meticulous. Not only does this program fulfill certain diplomatic, cultural, and economic goals, but it is also financed by the taxpayers of the United Kingdom, or the nation that is hosting it. People who are taking part in such a tour are not acting in their own capacity. Rather, they are operating in their capacity as representatives of the Crown in the United Kingdom. Examples of such individuals are the King of England and the Prince of Wales. It is because of this that their presence carries the weight of the state along with it. One of the things that Harry and Meghan are considering doing for their wedding is going on a ghost tour. In addition to the fact that they are regarded as royalty all over the world, they do not hold any official positions. There are individuals who are classified as being private and hailing from Montecito, California. Because of this, the governments who are hosting the attendees find themselves in a diplomatic predicament that is exceedingly unfavorable as a consequence of their activities. Who is going to preside over their arrival as the official host? Who is responsible for paying for the appropriate level of security, and what is the level of protection that is required? In terms of protocol, who should be obeyed when it comes to those who use royal titles but do not have any functions that are associated with the royal family? Those nations are put in the position of having to handle the delicate domestic politics of the British royal family, which results in a burden for those nations in terms of diplomatic relations. From a psychological point of view, the fact that they desire to deliver tours in the style of royalty indicates that they have a great unwillingness to let go of the exclusive platform that they deliberately gave up at the beginning of their career. In spite of the fact that they have a strong desire to experience the gravitas, the formality, and the worldwide stage that come with being a working royal, they have made the decision not to accept the obligations, the scrutiny, and the dedication to the monarchy that are necessary in order to obtain access to the position. As a result of the crisis that happened during the Megxit moment, an endeavor is being made to maintain the advantages of their prior life while following to the laws of their new existence. This is a constitutional impossibility that was at the heart of the issue. Not only does this method prove to be troublesome from a diplomatic point of view, but it also poses a risk to one's reputation. In the event that these tours do not receive assistance from the British government, it is feasible that they may appear to be lavish and self-funded vanity endeavors. In order to generate content and enhance their brand, which is performing poorly, it appears as though they are using underdeveloped countries as a gorgeous backdrop instead of using developed places. The assertion made by the source material that they are looking for a free vacation at the expense of countries such as Nigeria and Colombia touches upon the primary perception problem, which is that the endeavor appears to be solely concerned with serving their own interests. Despite the fact that it is a harsh accusation, the assertion touches upon the primary perception problem. The duties that are the major purpose for the existence of royals are being separated from the aspects of royal life that receive the most attention and are considered to be the most glamorous. It is an acknowledgement that their attempt to build a new, independent career in media and philanthropy has failed, and this return to the prior, disastrous Megxit strategy is an admission of that failure. This is an admission that they have failed. As of right now, they are dependent on a feeble duplicate of the one and only life that they have ever genuinely known. A role that does not exist anymore and is a ghost of a role. They are not innovators who are building a new model of service. Rather, they are exiles who are attempting to cosplay the life that they have left behind. This is becoming increasingly apparent to the rest of the world. However, they are discovering that their performance is missing in substance due to the fact that they have left the organization that they were a part of in the past. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts and say goodbye for now.